Next, World Ship Boxing presents a heavyweight title fight. 45-year-old former champ George Foreman gets what may be his last shot at regaining the title against first-time defender Michael Moorer. It's Moorer-Foreman for the heavyweight crown. Next.
The following is a special presentation of HBO Sports.
Dream, the impossible dream, to fight the unbeatable foe, to bear with unbearable thought, to reach the unreachable star. This is my quest, to follow that star, no matter how hopeless, no matter how far, to fight for the right without sin or pause, to be willing to march into hell for a heavenly cause. And I know if I only be true to this glorious quest, that my heart will lie peaceful and calm when I'm laid to my rest. And the world will be better for this, that one man, scorned and covered with scars, still fights with his last ounce of courage to reach the unreachable stars.
Tonight, an impossible dream fulfilled or shattered. 45-year-old George Foreman faces heavyweight champion Michael Moorer in his quest to regain the most glorious title in sports.
Tonight, live from the MGM Grand in Las Vegas, Nevada, HBO Sports presents World Championship Boxing as Michael Moorer, WBA and IBF heavyweight champion, defends his title against the one and only George Foreman. It's scheduled for 12 rounds. 20 years ago last Sunday, an indelible memory in heavyweight boxing in Kinshasa, Zaire. After 8 rounds of the unique and unforgettable rope-a-dope strategy, Muhammad Ali lashed out with the punches that floored George Foreman and ended his reign as heavyweight champion of the world. Just this past Thursday, Foreman weighs in again for another heavyweight title shot. His weight 250 pounds. Heavyweight champion Michael Moorer weighing in at 222 pounds. And this arena at the MGM Grand, set up to house as many as 14,000 plus, will be pretty close to full tonight. Overwhelmingly populated by ticket buyers who are hoping against hope that the 45-year-old baby boomer star George Foreman can pull an unlikely miracle and lift the heavyweight crown from a young and unbeaten champion. Hello again, I'm Jim Lafley. We at HBO Sports welcome you to this evening of boxing, which some of you will see as a legitimate heavyweight championship test for the mysterious young champion, Michael Moorer. Many more of you will no doubt see it as a burlesque piece of theater, featuring the clown king of the sport, the larger-than-life George Foreman. And, of course, no small percentage of you are likely to see this fight as a sad commentary on the absence of star power and market power in the heavyweight division. Whatever your reason for tuning in, we're convinced that you are going to be in for an interesting evening. Working with me, as always, HBO boxing analyst Larry Merchant. And Larry, let's turn to the subject of the champion, Michael Moorer. He deserves to be spoken of first. He's done nothing wrong, won all 35 of his fights. In the moment of truth, won the heavyweight championship from Evander Holyfield. But some people see him, and he's widely criticized as an uncommitted, sort of uncaring champion who was able to lift the title from an off-form Holyfield on a lucky night. What must Moorer do to reverse that image in the minds of his detractors?
Well, one thing he could do is take out one of those negative ads accusing George Foreman of being soft on crime. That's always a crowd pleaser during an election year. His problem is that boxing, more than other sports, is a crowd-pleasing game. You have to be a crowd pleaser to make the big bucks, and he isn't a crowd-pleasing fighter. When he won the heavyweight championship of the world, the star who emerged was his trainer, Teddy Atlas, who inspired everyone with his thrilling and passionate pleas to his fighter between rounds. And when that 1 minute between rounds is more exciting than the rounds themselves, you've got a problem. The odd thing is that Michael Moorer has been involved in a number of very exciting brawls, and he is a good fighter. Maybe he'll turn out to be a very good fighter. What we have to try to find out now is that as a champion, is he going to grow or is he going to go? And that's what starts tonight.
Yeah, it remains to be seen if he'll ever have the kind of personality appeal which has brought the betting odds on this fight down to almost only 2-1 going into the fight. Imagine that. 26-year-old unbeaten champion Michael Moorer, only a barely 2-1 favorite over George Foreman. A lot of people here betting with their hearts, perhaps, rather than their heads. And as George isn't here to serve in his usual role as the third member of our commentary staff, we again replace him. It's our privilege to work with the legendary trainer and manager Gil Clancy, who once, a long time ago, trained George Foreman for a brief period of time. 2-1 odds only, Gil. And a lot of those people who are betting on Foreman, no doubt saying to themselves, well, Moorer has a weak chin. He has a habit of going down. He's been knocked down 4 times in his career. What about that?
Well, punches have a tendency to tighten up. That makes them vulnerable for counters. Here you see him throwing punches. He stops to admire his work and bang a counter. Now another bad habit, he's fighting against the ropes with his feet parallel. You can't do that because you're a big target. Here he's doing it again, and he's getting nailed with everything.
Parallel against the ropes, another bad habit of his. And this was the second knockdown against Bert Cooper. So you saw them there, the 4 knockdowns that have occurred in Moorer's dossier. But the good news is, in every occasion, he gets up and wins the fight.
Not only does he win, but he usually wins in style.
Well, as he showed against Evander Holyfield when he came back to dominate the latter stages of that fight, en route to the decision victory. And regardless of what you think of Michael Moorer's talents in the ring, you have to grant him that he has a great asset in young trainer Teddy Atlas, who follows in the footsteps of Emmanuel Stewart and Lou Duva and George Benton as the latest to try to guide the admittedly headstrong champion. Teddy Atlas, the star of Moorer Holyfield.
This is for the championship of the world. Give them out, please, Mo. Mo! Hey, you start doing what we trained to do. Otherwise, don't come back to this fucking corner. Do you hear me? You're blowing it. You're blowing it. There comes a time in a man's life, and he makes a decision to just live, survive, or he wants to win. You're lying to yourself, and I'd lie to you if I let you get away with that. And new heavyweight champion of the world.
Some people thought it was disrespectful to me or that he had no business saying things like that, but they didn't understand the relationship that Teddy and I have. I want to be a guy who comes as close to being as important as a fighter. as possible, where it meant more than just being a guy who was just there with him. He's not going to be here for no free ride. He's not going to pamper anybody. He's here to do a job. I wanted to get an understanding of Michael early on. People told me he would bolt training, sometimes refuse to spar. The smallest thing would probably piss me off, no problem. People would say that he was a little nutty, quite honestly. And I said, well, maybe we don't have a nut here. We have a guy pretty normal. Why should we take for granted he's sure of himself? Just because he's a tremendous puncher? There's a lot of pressure in that arena that fighters go into. They got to go in there naked and face another man. It's a very hard thing to do. And they try to grab for as much strength as they can. And they think if they think the person around them is strong, it helps a little bit. Teddy's not going to let you just try and be lazy and just slide on by and not do anything, because he's going to be on your ass 24/7 automatically. That's his job. I was brought up in a young age as a trainer, or custom model. Even though he BS'd me a lot to keep me going, working for free, he would tell me, you're going to have the heavyweight champ of the world.
Suddenly I discovered he had a real talent for teaching. The fellow was a born teacher. And he's the type of person that wants to help people, especially kids. And they come to depend on him, rely on him a great deal.
I was a person who had no direction. I was involved in a lot of things that weren't responsible. Yeah, I was in like it twice, once for fighting. And then before that, I was involved in a robbery with a gun. I wasn't really a bad kid, but I was involved in these things. I realize now it was probably to get my father's attention. My father was a doctor. He was probably the only professional man I ever knew. He passed away when he was 88. He made it possible for me to stay in Catskill. How many guys pursue being a trainer? He didn't complain about it. I wasn't getting paid. He never once made me feel small. I mean, he supported me in Custom Auto's house up there all those years. It helped me. It kept me in a direction of responsibility long enough that when it was over, I was on my way to not needing help anymore. When we won the heavyweight title, in some way, I know that my father would have been happy. I validated all the things I did when I didn't make money, and I was glad I got rid of Tyson. You know, I was known and I was associated and attached to being Mike Tyson's first trainer. The hell with that. I got my own world champion.
Back live at ringside in the MGM Grand Garden in Las Vegas, coming up in a matter of minutes, 45-year-old George Foreman's challenge to 26-year-old Michael Moorer for the WBA and IBF heavyweight championships of the world. The WBA tried to block this fight. It took a successful trip to court on the part of George Foreman to ensure himself the chance to again challenge for the heavyweight championship. And Larry Merchant, the criticism of the fight is that with no victories in the ring since January of 1993, Foreman has not legitimately earned a shot at the title. Your thoughts?
Well, there are a lot of skeptics out there who think that George now is more King Khan than King Kong. And George is just flattered by those words. George understands that the biggest con of all is the con people who know they're being conned and love the con. But George hasn't earned this championship shot as a fighter. He hasn't fought in a year and a half, and on that inauspicious occasion, he lost to Tommy Morrison. Doesn't set a good precedent for future challengers in any division. On the other hand, George is a star, and stardom, like age, has its privileges. There are many, many champions and very, very few stars. That's why he's here. The thing I've been curious about, Jim, is that all week, out of the blue, he's been wearing neckties. I've been trying to figure it out. Is he coming here for a retirement party or some kind of a corporate takeover? We'll find out, but they have been power ties.
Or does he want to be the next Texan to run for the presidency of the United States? Well, we'll wait and see. George's star power, once again underlined, we point out, by those who are betting heavily in the sports books here in Las Vegas, that he's going to score a knockout victory over Michael Moorer. In fact, conventional wisdom, Gil, is that George can only win via the heavy knockout punch. Do you agree? Or do you see some other scenario by which he could win?
No, I don't agree. George is not a one-punch knock-her-outer. That is a word, knock-her-outer, Jim?
I think it is. We just made it up.
Yeah, well, you know, in the Morrison fight, George could see the openings, but the brain couldn't get the message to the hands fast enough. He just couldn't get off. But he doesn't knock you out with one punch. He really clubs you to death, and that's what he's going to have to do with the fighter as he's fighting. He's going to have to punch and try to club him and just keep beating him. But I don't think that's going to happen.
So you see no chance that George can win the fight?
Very little.
Very little. Well, that's not the way people are believing here in the House, where thousands upon thousands are rooting for George Foreman to pull yet another miracle. They're voting yes on the fight here. Many of you are voting yes on this fight at home by simple virtue of the fact that you're watching it, a mark of the incredible appeal of this larger-than-life figure.
There are a lot of people wonder, why in the world is George Foreman still boxing? I've been fighting so long that I won my Olympic gold medal before the first Woodstock.
When he won the gold medal at the Olympics in 1968, Lyndon Johnson was still president.
I think in his last 3 fights he hasn't looked very well. I think, and I don't know if George would admit that or not.
A lot of people say, hey, George, you've had a few fights. You didn't look all that good in those fights. Well, I think I did.
When you look at his last 3 fights, people are going to say, what's he doing? Still fighting. He's over 40. He's getting hurt. He's getting banged up a little bit. Why would you want to continue? And that's a great question. I mean, people are going to ask him that all the time.
First time I became heavyweight champion of the world by defeating Joe Frazier, I had no idea what was ahead of me.
And Foreman is as poised as can be.
Then this incredible character, Muhammad Ali, comes on and not only says he's going to beat him and not only beats him, but does it in a sort of humiliating way.
I woke up the next morning, I felt like I had been robbed of everything, not only outside of me, my title, but everything within me. A terrible loss I felt.
During a 10-year break from boxing, George Foreman contemplated what Ali had taken from him. And then, a comeback.
George was a joke when he came back. People wondered what the sport of boxing had come to when a guy of his age, his physical conditioning or lack of, could get into a ring and be able to make money.
Privately, that does bother him, the fact that he's not taken seriously by a lot of the people on the fringes of boxing.
George kind of weathered the laughter, but I think it's gotten to a point now where he feels he has established himself. He had his shot against Evander Holyfield, put up one heck of a fight, and there are still those people who continue to laugh at him. He wants to show them something. He wants to prove something to them.
You just can't function by what other people think about what you're doing. You got to have something within you that's private.
He thinks very seriously that he can, again, rule the heavyweight division as he did in 1973. That, more than anything else, drives him.
Well, I think he's just driven by the fact that the heavyweight title is out there. He once owned it. He's been a little, not bitter, but maybe lost a little bit since he lost the title to Muhammad Ali. He had knocked men out who beat Muhammad Ali. George feels like that's something that was his, and that it was taken away from him, that he was the better fighter. And he just feels like he wasn't himself that night, and he won't rest easy, I don't think, until he gets it back.
Maybe the goal driving George Foreman forever onward is in fact unattainable. Maybe what he's after is the image of immortality that Ali gained in Zaire 20 years ago.
There's something within me that moves me to become heavyweight champ of the world, and I won't stop until I satisfy this thirst within me.
He sees what he wants, and he doesn't hear the voices, and he just goes for it. And I think that once he gets that belt, if he can get it, he'll probably be the happiest man in the world.
I get up in the morning, I want it. I go to bed at night, I dream about it. To fight for the world heavyweight title is very important to me, but it's a private quest.
And in a moment, the private quest turns public. Here is the tail of the tape. You see the 19-year age differential, although Moore will be 27 next week. A 2-inch reach advantage, or I should say height advantage for Foreman, then the weight. He's 7 pounds less than what he weighed when he fought against Evander Holyfield in April of 1991. Moorer is 8 pounds heavier than the weight at which he fought Evander Holyfield in April of this year. Larry?
George has sweatshirts older than Moorer. Here are punch stat numbers to give you an idea of their activity. I don't know how relevant they are to this particular fight, but you can see the numbers are fairly consistent on both sides, Moorer being a little bit more active. This is where the story of the fight may be told. Can Foreman deal with Moorer's right-hand jab?
Rules of the bout with our unofficial ringside scorer, Harold Letterman.
Michael Moorer and George Foreman will box tonight using the rules of the International Boxing Federation. 12 rounds. There is no standing 8 count, no 3 knockdown rule. You cannot be saved by the bell in any round, including the last round. Only the referee can stop the fight, and in case the cut is caused by an accidental headbutt, and that cut causes the fight to be stopped, we go to the scorecards after 6 rounds have been completed. Before that, it's a technical draw. And Jim, referee Joe Cortez is a youthful 51 years old. He's still the oldest man in the ring.
By a narrow margin. And now, expect this auditorium to come alive as George Foreman makes his entrance.
The brisk pace that George walked here. He really wanted to be in this ring.
He walked in like he's only about 40 years old.
That's the equivalent of getting a walk and running to first base. Incidentally, Angelo Dundee, 20 years and 1 week ago, was in Muhammad Ali's corner when Ali upset Foreman in Zaire. Tonight, Angelo will whisper into the ear of George Foreman in Foreman's corner.
I wouldn't have imagined that Dundee would still be training, much less that Foreman would still be fighting.
George Foreman numbers 72 victories in his 2 separate careers, 4 losses. Muhammad Ali, Jimmy Young, Evander Holyfield, Tommy Morrison. The knockout percentage is the highest for any heavyweight champion in the history of the sport. He will earn a number of distinctions if he's able to win tonight. Oldest to fight for the heavyweight championship, he already earns that distinction by virtue of having entered the ring. He would be the oldest to win the heavyweight title by a huge margin over Walker, who was 37 when he beat Ezzard Charles. And, of course, the oldest to regain the title by nearly 10 years over Muhammad Ali's age when he fought Leon Spinks in 1978. Teddy Atlas precedes his champion, Michael Moorer, into the ring.
Has Teddy Atlas received too much credit for Moorer's position now as a former trainer? Gil, what do you think?
No, I don't think so, because I think in the fight with Holyfield that Michael Moorer was just starting to go through the motions, and something had to be done to wake him up. And what Teddy did by sitting on the stool was one of the greatest things I've ever seen a cornerman do. But it really did wake Moorer up.
It looks like he's doing for trainers what David Letterman did for top 10 lists. He's making you all look good.
No, I don't know what George was doing before, but he measured the ring from one corner to the other. He paced the ring. What that was for, I really have no idea.
Pretty big ring, Gil.
Well, it could be a big ring, or maybe he has a superstitious number. Maybe 22 or something is his lucky number.
Michael Moorer began in professional boxing as a light heavyweight. Won a title there before moving up to cruiserweight and then on to heavyweight, where he has spent more than 3 years now. He's 35-0 with 30 KOs, and he is the only southpaw fighter ever to have held the heavyweight championship. And now let's go up to ring announcer Michael Buffer for the pre-fight introduction.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Grand Garden of the MGM Grand Hotel, Casino, and Theme Park of Las Vegas, Nevada, where tonight, fight night and main events, along with Top Rank Incorporated in association with your undefeated king of beers, Budweiser, proud to be your bud, present World Championship Boxing. On behalf of the aforementioned, our best wishes for a speedy recovery to Mr. Dan Duva and Ms. Carol Hamp, who are unable to attend tonight. This bout is sanctioned by the International Boxing Federation and the World Boxing Association with the approval and sanctioning of the Nevada State Athletic Commission, Chairman Dr. James Nave, Commissioners at ringside, Nat Carasali, Luther Mack, Dr. Elias Ghanem, and Crispin Rivera, Executive Director Mark Ratner. Chief physician is Dr. Flip Homansky. Also at ringside, Dr. James Wish Game and Dr. William Berliner. The timekeeper is James Cavan. Counting for the knockdown seconds, Mike Lasella. Representing the International Boxing Federation, President Robert W. Lee, and supervisor ringside, Alvin Goodman. Representing the World Boxing Association as supervisor is York Van Nixon. The scoring for this bout will be done by 3 judges. It will be done on the 10-point must system, and the 3 judges assigned are Dwayne Ford, Chuck Jampa, and Jerry Ross. And when the bell rings, the man in charge of the action, working in his 71st world title bout, referee Joe Cortez. And now, ladies and gentlemen, from Las Vegas, Nevada, by way of the Grand Garden Inn, the MGM Grand Hotel, Casino, and Theme Park, let's get ready to rumble! 12 rounds of boxing for the heavyweight championship of the world. Introducing first, in the blue corner, wearing red and weighing 250 pounds. This 1968 Olympic gold medalist has a professional record of 72 victories against 4 losses. 67 of those victories have come by way of knockout, and his KO to win ratio is the greatest in heavyweight history. And tonight, he comes into this ring looking to add his name to another page of heavyweight history. Ladies and gentlemen, introducing from Houston, Texas, the challenger, the former heavyweight champion of the world, Big George Foreman. And across the ring in the red corner, wearing gold with red trim, weighing an even 222 pounds. This 2-time world champion brings a perfect professional record of 35-0, and 30 of his victories have come by way of knockout. He is only the 2nd man in the history of this sport to successfully step up from the world light heavyweight title to the world heavyweight championship. Tonight, he steps into this ring ready to put his perfect record on the line in his first heavyweight title defense. Ladies and gentlemen, from the Motor City, Detroit, Michigan, presenting the undefeated heavyweight champion of the world, Michael Moore.
All right, Michael, George, we went over the rules in the dressing room. Obey my commands at all times. Give me a good, clean fight. And bear one thing in mind. I'm the boss man in here. Take hands to luck.
Jim, a couple of weeks ago during those floods in Texas, George rescued his elderly parents and took his family to a shelter for the night. Is he on high ground or deep water tonight?
And what about Moorer, who on the advice of trainer Teddy Atlas did not look Foreman in the eye during referee's instructions, instead kept his eyes firmly fixed on George's chest?
Maybe he thinks that's a target. That's one thing you can't miss.
There are a lot of targets where George is standing. Expect Moorer to start off working behind the right jab that served him so well in the battle with Holyfield.
Jim, both fighters' best punch is their jab. Foreman's left jab and Moorer's right jab are their most effective punches, so it should be easy to see who's going to control who with the left jab.
There was a time, Gil, when George's telephone pole left jab was regarded as one of the most effective ever in the sport. Still?
Well, he's a big man if he can put that power behind that left jab. But again, it's not as quick as Moorer's, and Moorer can hook off that jab, and George can't.
Both men have landed early, beginning taste of the opponent's power. And if you think you've seen Foreman's shorts before, they are the same trunks that he wore in the ring against Muhammad Ali, October 30, 1974 in Kinshasa, Zaire.
And there's that hook off the jab by Moorer, and it landed solidly. And the way I always have my guys fight when they're fighting a southpaw is move to the right, and that's what George is doing. Right now, he's dictating the movement in the ring.
So Moorer following Foreman as Foreman moves the left foot away from Moorer's right jab and tries to stay away from Moorer's left hand. Moorer not working with the left much so far, jabbing and hooking with the right. Foreman throwing mostly left jab.
And the way Moorer is moving now, he could be moving right into that clubbing right hand of George Foreman.
Moorer vowed to us that he would not stand still and allow Foreman to get in more than one shot at a time.
George's left eye is starting to swell already.
That eye swelled up so badly in the fight against Alex Stewart. And some of us think, Gil, that that eye has never really fully recovered from the beating Stewart gave him. George got
nice right hand by George Foreman.
Yep,
right in the pipe.
Through the guard. Moorer trying to get to the body with the left. George is a forest of defense up there. Right hand underneath for Foreman. Moorer has to reach up to stick the jab. Tough, Gil?
Well, Moorer has never done very, very well as far as knocking guys out when they're real big men, like Mike the Giant White went 10 with him, Bone Crusher Smith went 10. So big men apparently do bother Michael Moorer a little bit. Nice right-hand counter by George Foreman.
Heavy contact for Foreman down the stretch of the first round. Moorer landed a stinging jab as it came to a close.
I want everyone calm here. Get water in here. The hardest part of the fight is over, the first round. Now you know it's not make-believe anymore. It's just a guide. Our sparring partners were better. Am I right or wrong? All right. Get some water here. Give him a little water. Now listen. What he's trying to do is set you up for one shot. Listen to me closely. He's trying to sneak punch you. I don't want you standing at the same range. You got to step out of range every once in a while. He's got you slowly standing at his range where he can find you with the right hand. All right?
Come on.
Give me that there. Okay. All right, seconds out. Go. All right, seconds out. Let's go. Let's
Be very alert. Change the distance and move to the side.
Angelo Dundee is identified as the cut man in Foreman's corner. You can see that they've greased up the left side of his face where the mouth begins to appear under his left eye.
Well, he couldn't have a better cut man than Angelo Dundee.
But on the other hand, George refuses to sit down between rounds, Gil, and stands up. Does that make it harder for the cut man to do his work?
Absolutely. I spoke to George about that when I interviewed him. Good left hand by Moorer. And he said he hadn't made up his mind yet, but it looks like a compromise. I've never seen it before. He has a very high stool in his corner. So maybe he's going to compromise that way. But so far, he stood up between rounds. And poor Angelo has to reach all the way up to try to take care of him.
Something of a bar stool for the teetotaling preacher.
And again, Moorer is moving. I don't like the way Moorer is moving to his left.
Making it possible for Foreman to land. Moorer still standing well within contact range for Foreman.
right, he'd take himself completely out of George's punching range. And George's punches are not the fastest in the world. I think he'd be able to really do a job with the jab and the right hook if he moved to his right, but he's not doing that.
They threw an equal number of punches in round number 1, but according to punch-stat numbers, Moore landed at twice as high a rate. Foreman's able to stick the jab effectively. He hasn't landed one of those right hands from distance yet. Got one underneath in round 1. Sharp right by Moore, who seems to be gaining confidence. Many times in our coverage of southpaw fighters, George has harped on the strategy of throwing the right-hand lead over the top against the southpaw. That time he got a chance to do it inside from short range.
Well, if he tries to do that from the outside, he's going to get nailed coming in.
So he's got to get close to throw that right-hand lead. Moore stepping inside again. Now he moves back away. Foreman goes right hand to the body. Moore concentrating on the jab in this round.
Jab and hook. Good straight right hand by Big George Foreman.
Back Moore up. Good right hand by Moore. Solid right hand by Foreman. That time again from close range, he was able to throw the right hand lead.
I thought that was a pretty good round for George. What really sustains him is not just the power in his fists, but the power of his will. That's what he's trying to impose on Moore, his will.
He's a hook now, too. After he starts shifting back and forth. Okay. Thank you, right hand. Somebody put a little water on it. Same thing you've been doing. Same thing. Come on, somebody put a little water on this hill. Put it all on it. Water, baby, water. Bob, get in another bob. Stay close, you're better off. Come on, better off backing him up on this way.
All right, I want you to move to your right, where you're moving away from his right hand, because that's what he's looking to sneak punch you with. Every once in a while you stop. Move to your right away from his right hand, all right? Do you hear me? And get that jab working. He's bullshitting you a little bit to go at a slow pace. Get that jab working.
Eddie Atlas wanted Michael Moore to work at a rapid pace tonight. In the first 2 rounds, he and Foreman have thrown equal numbers of punches.
I had mentioned that both fighters' best punch has been their jab, and so far Moore has scored a lot more with his jab and left and right hook, excuse me, than George has.
No work on the left side between rounds in Foreman's corner. You notice Dundee calls him son. Same thing he used to call Sugar Ray Leonard.
Well, again, Teddy Atlas between rounds told Moore to move to his right, but he had better get Moore's attention because he's moving exactly the opposite way.
Moving to his left and therefore toward Foreman's right hand.
That's correct.
Atlas working as though his respect for Foreman decreases from round to round. I have a sense here, Gil, that Moore feels as though he has felt Foreman's power and it's not going to hurt him. That could be a big mistake.
Well, again, we have mentioned that George really doesn't have that big snap. His hands aren't as fast as they used to be, but the accumulation of punches by this big, heavy guy can really start putting some pressure on you. And as Larry mentioned, which is true, he's really trying to put his will on Michael Moore.
George landed at 1-2, and then Moore snaps his head back with 2 consecutive jabs. Imposing his will how, Gil?
By just keeping that pressure on, not getting rattled, got nailed in, couple of good solid punches.
You saw that right hook that Moore can bring behind the jab. He's so efficient with the right hand.
And that's the one thing that George can't do. He cannot hook off his jab. But again, he's throwing
and Atlas is allowing him to get off. Atlas, excuse me, Michael Moorer.
I did the same thing.
Teddy's not doing the fighting.
We've begun to think of them as being so intertwined that they're almost the same person in there. Moorer misses with the right, but lands the left. Much quicker getting his punches away than George. That's no big surprise.
You can see Foreman loading up with that right hand. I'm surprised that Moorer couldn't see it.
Well, I'm not sure he's worried about it, Gil. He's putting himself in positions where he'll take a lot of contact.
But he's not countering when George misses.
Solid left hand over the top by Moorer. Backing Foreman up again. The heavy blows in that round were landed by the champion.
Now listen. Listen to me very closely, nothing else. Take a deep breath, kid. That's the first, the half, not the whole round, but the last part of the round is the first time you didn't let him bullshit you. You kept it at your pace, and what happened? It was the way we expected, right? You started finding him, and you started getting to him, right? If he was in camp, he couldn't last. Don't allow him to bullshit you, go at slow pace. Now, I want you moving to your right more. You're moving too much to your left, okay? Open up. I got it.
Here's George trying to get those ponderous fists on Moorer. He hits it with a straight right hand. But we have to remember, Gil, that he hit Tommy Morrison with the clean punches, and Morrison didn't go. And Morrison has been knocked down by virtually everyone. Well, again, he's a big, strong man, but the speed, he doesn't have the hand speed or the snap in those punches. They have to accumulate.
And one of the articles of faith in the sport is that the punch that really hurts you is the one you don't see coming. There aren't going to be many of George's punches that Moorer won't see coming.
It surprised me the last round. George was really telegraphing his punches, and he was still able to get him off on Michael Moorer. Is Moorer one of those fighters, Gil, who has a tendency to fight at his opponent's pace? Well, that's what Teddy Atlas is trying to wake him up to not to do. He says, don't let him BS you. He says, he's trying to slow the pace down. You keep a fast pace the way Moorer did at the very end of the last round.
Let him out of there. Let him out clean. Let him out clean.
Moorer again landing the snapping jab here early in round 4. There's Foreman with the right hand lead, made possible by Moorer standing in close to him. They haven't been 5 feet from the ropes in this fight. You know, this ring could have been 10 feet square.
You think a big ring would help Michael Moorer, but the way these guys fight, they both fight flat-footed. Nobody's doing too much side-to-side movement, the bobbing and weaving. They're both stand-up fighters, and again, trying to move. A nice combination by George, and an answer back from Michael Moorer.
Yeah, they're fighting at a pace and style which, in theory, ought to benefit George Foreman, but Moorer continues to do pretty well. And that jab is really snapping George's head back now.
And again, you know, with George, a 45-year-old skin, he should start to mark up the result of those punches.
Crowd goes nuts as George lands a pawing right hand. They're hoping.
It's amazing, Gil. I watched George Foreman for 25 years, I guess. I don't know if I can count 10 times that he's taken steps backward.
That's punches behind the right.
This keeps coming and coming. That can wear a fighter down. That's what we had mentioned. The fact that he puts that mental pressure on you by keep coming and clubbing at you. Clubbing the side, clubbing you on the head.
He's going to get his chances because the champion, Michael Moorer, seems increasingly willing to step up into George's range, stand inside Foreman's power, and try to pound away with his right hand. There's a straight right again. Left hook by Foreman landed on the side of Moorer's head. Moorer comes in and lands a left of his own. Just as the right-hand lead ought to work in theory for Foreman, you should say the same thing about the left-hand lead for Moorer. But he works so much behind the right hand, and so well. Letterman, how do you see it so far?
Jim, 4 rounds to nothing, 40-36, Michael Moorer. Boxing judges are definitely impressed by guys that have snap and velocity in their shots, and Michael Moorer is controlling his fight with more snap, more velocity, and effective aggressiveness. And one important point, George Foreman opens the glove. It's totally against the rules of boxing. You must keep the glove closed. You can't heel the guy, you can't pour at him. You have to keep the glove closed and punch with a closed, solid shot.
Stop standing and punch. Now those body shots before we can't throw if you move to the side.
For what it's worth,
Pick it up this round.
which may not be a lot, I have Moorer had 2 rounds, 1 and 1. 1 even.
My scorecard is very close to yours, Larry. I gave Moorer 3 rounds and 1 to George, but the 1 round I called very, very close. That was the second round.
In round 4,
The fight I had even. The round I had even.
in round 4, Moorer greatly stepped up his activity level. He threw 65 punches in that round. That's a lot closer to the number that Teddy Atlas would like to see, as he hopes that his fighter will wear down the 45-year-old challenger.
Maybe the other way around, the way George is moving those big ponderous arms now.
George with a strong start in round 5. Moorer still standing right in front of him.
And again, you see George clubbing away with those big ponderous arms, and they will get to you after a while.
Yeah, if Moorer's going to stand there, he'd do well to throw punches all the time.
And Moorer now is fighting with his mouth open. Not really gasping a breath yet, but he looks like he's starting to feel the effects of the pressure.
Says that he trained well, although some look at the weight, 222, 8 pounds more than what he brought into the ring against Holyfield, and say, well, maybe he's not in the same shape.
There was a case where George set him up for that right hand, but just couldn't pull the trigger. That's those slowed reflexes. He didn't have the reflexes against Tommy Morrison, and as you get older, they don't figure to get any better.
There are the right hands. Moorer landing 2 in rapid-fire succession. Left hand over the top lands for Moorer. Foreman takes another step backwards.
I'm surprised that Moorer is not trying to throw more body punches. He's just out there fencing with George.
I think he thinks he's going to knock him out. I thought that he would fight cautiously and work for a decision. But he now looks to me as though he thinks he's going to be able to knock Foreman out. And he thinks he'll do it by standing in front of him and trading shots.
Well, hitting that big man can get him very, very tired, trying to move a big, big body.
He's making a lot of contact, though, Gil.
Now he finally throws a couple of punches to the body.
He should keep doing that. Another one to the body.
If George was sitting here, he would say those punches are going to have an effect later in the fight.
That's exactly what George would say. Money in the bank.
And George has been landing some pretty good punches in the last 20 seconds. There's that straight right hand again from George. He's starting to get the Moorer's respect.
No chanting so far. Crowd seems a little uncertain as to how to try to lift Foreman.
Here's a big snapping jab from George.
And there are 2 right hands from Moorer. Again, Moorer goes back to the body, then comes back up to the head. I think if he keeps going to the body, Gil, he's going to pile the points up.
Listen, Michael, that was a better round. I'm not going to have any rounds like the round before that. You hear me? Do you hear me? That was a much better round. I expect at least that. All right? All right. Can you give it to me? Yeah, take a little water. Hold on. Now listen to me. There's no reason for this guy to touch you once in a while, is there? You get off first. It's very simple. I'm going to bring you back to boxing basics. You get off first, either step out or move to the side. It's very slow. You understand?
All right, watch Michael Moorer unleash some hooks. You can see just how quick Michael Moorer's hands are relative to George Foreman. Watch once again, 2 right hands, 2 hard, clean right hands. I don't think I've ever seen a southpaw fighter throw those kinds of hook jabs, whatever you call them, quite as stiffly as that, Gil.
Well, you know, Moore is he's a strange duck. He's a guy that's a natural right-hander who's boxing southpaw.
Brushes his teeth with his right hand, shoots cool with his left hand, writes with his right hand. He's really a mixed bag. You could call him ambidextrous. It serves him to great advantage in the ring, where his right hand is the stronger hand and the lead hand.
And George is landing some of those left jabs. Again, Moore is trying to fence with a bigger man, where he should be using a little bit of movement and setting up George for those counters. You can just see George flat-footed, not moving. Good right uppercut from George Foreman.
Yeah, first time we've seen the uppercut to great effect, and that's a punch that George thinks he can hurt Moore with, particularly from this range.
Snappy punches from George Foreman. Those punches had a little snap on them. Good right hand by George Foreman.
Showing some quickness in there.
That's exactly what Michael Moore should be doing, throwing that right hook underneath. Then he can set up that straight left hand.
Moore with an uppercut of his own, followed by a hook. Uppercut, hook, both with the right hand. There's Foreman coming up underneath. They've gotten so close to each other, I'm suspecting we're going to see more and more uppercuts as the rounds progress. Foreman to land, and the big man is getting off to good effect in round 6.
Also getting hit with some pretty solid counters from Michael Moore.
But what the crowd is responding to is that George's blows appear to be the heavier shots now. The price George can pay when he opens up. Solid right hand by Moore. Foreman's left eye beginning to close.
Go ahead, go hold my head.
The battle of the jabs is being won by Michael Moore.
He finally threw a left cross there and almost landed it.
A good round at any age.
Guys, you're doing a good job, Bob. Thank you.
He's a little close now. Those is combination. Move to the right. See, every time he moves over to the right, every time he moves to the right, he's throwing that uppercut.
That ain't nothing. Try sliding to your, to the right a little bit. Get away from that right hand.
Come on. After you hit him, I don't want you to go.
Throw a right hand. He just go the other way to the right.
There's no reason, give him some water. There's no reason for you to stand there and let him find you. Either step out or move to the side, all right? Okay? And once you're in, work. Once you're in, work.
Michael Moore said he would carve George up like a turkey, but that turkey is landing a few drumsticks right now.
And here's the definition of a slugfest by punch stat numbers in round 6. Moore landed 73% of his punches. Foreman landed 63% of his punches in return.
And again, Moore winning the battle of the jabs.
Here comes the chance. So when they trade jabs, you see that as an advantage for Moore.
Absolutely. But the thing that Moore has not been able to do is set George up for that straight left hand. And again, I think he could do it if he would throw that right hand underneath. Foreman has been actually taking more chances with his right hand than Michael Moore has with his straight left.
Well, remember that Moore was essentially cautious against Holyfield. particularly after the early knockdown. If it made sense to be cautious against Holyfield, it makes even more sense to be cautious against Foreman.
There was another example where George Foreman just couldn't pull a trigger. Michael Moore was wide open for a right hand, but George couldn't let the punch go.
Foreman landed underneath to the body. Moore still jabbing and hooking with that right hand.
George Foreman is slow to a walk now. He's just walking around the ring, and again, Moore walking right with him instead of using a little movement to set George up. Nice straight right hand down the pipe by George. That's what Michael Moore has to do. When Moore misses with that ponderous right hand, he's going to have to counter. So far, he's not been successful with counter punches at all.
Moore in close is going to himself, pop, pop, pop. And George is old enough to be his pop.
I was just going to say, do you think he's calling pop or... Again, Moore lets George get away with that right hand lead when he misses. When George misses, he has to counter.
But Moore so far prefers throwing the right hand to the left. He finally did it, didn't he? Yep. Smashed the left against Foreman's jaw.
Now Michael is moving to his right the way I really think he should be moving. When he does that, I think things are easy for him.
Lands the jab with metronome consistency.
I think the myth of George's power has been exposed by Michael Moore so far. He just doesn't have the quickness to make the force of a knockout.
The fourth round was the last time you slowed it down a little bit, and I told you, right? You slowed it down there. I want to pick it up now. You hear me? We only have 15 minutes left. All right? Don't make it 15 minutes at his pace. Remember what I told you in camp about an old car? Right? This is an old car. You're letting him go slow, he can make it down the road. You make him go faster, he's going to start to break down. All right, let's start making him go faster now. Do you hear me? I'm not... Listen to me. You're not going to have a real friendly corner. I'm proud of you, but you're not going to have a friendly corner if you keep letting him go slow. All right? You're going to make him go faster? All right.
Now, with your leg up on you. Hand right. Right hand, the only thing is doing. I don't know who writes Teddy Atlas's scripts, but sign him up.
Yeah, I think Teddy's having another big night. 7 rounds in the book. Harold Letterman, how do you see it so far?
Jim, 6 rounds to 1, 69-64, a commanding 5-point lead for Michael Moore. I still say boxing judges are impressed with guys that got snapped, guys that can step forward, guys that throw harder shots, and guys that get off first. Michael Moore is doing all those things. Judge Foreman just too much pouring, and he's just throwing those shots too slow.
All right, at the end of the last round, I thought Michael Moore had found the key. He was moving to his right, and he was really picking George apart. He comes out this round, and he goes right back to his left again. And again, you said Teddy Atlas is having a big night. He'll have a big night if he can make Michael Moore do what he wants him to do. Big right hand. That's the best right hand of the fight by George Foreman.
And Moore was hurt by that right hand, and he backs into a stationary position against the rope.
And a right uppercut by George. George knows he hurt him.
And now Moore stops George in his tracks with a right. But here comes the big man again. Moore almost got into that parallel position against the rope, which has given him trouble before, Gil.
That's one of a real no-no in boxing. I mean, that's one of the first things you learn. You never put your back flat against the ropes because you're a wide-open target and you can't get any leverage on your own punches.
And when Michael backed up off that right hand by Foreman, he almost did it. Near trip by George. They keep going. Referee Joe Cortez having a very quiet night in there, and that's good. You think Moore has fully recovered from that right hand now, Gil?
Yes, he has.
question is whether George is recovered, because he's now trying to take a break, it looks like.
Left and a right inside by Moore. Sizzling.
When Michael Moore moves to his right, he has it all his own way. One thing you have to give George credit for, though, is credit and will to win.
The early right hand by Foreman seemed to serve eventually as a wake-up call for Moore, who has come on to have a very strong last 2 minutes in this round.
Oh, no, come on, we got it. Come on.
Uppercut by Moore blasted Foreman's chin backward. And George makes it out of the round that bedeviled him in Zaire 20 years ago.
You were stupid at the beginning, but you got smart at the end.
Coming up after the conclusion of Foreman Moore, stay with us because we've got a preview of the fight of the year. The 168-pound championship fight coming up November 18 on pay-per-view between IBF super middleweight champion James Toney and his opponent, middleweight champion Roy Jones Jr. We'll preview the fight and talk live to both of them after this one.
All right, good.
You all right, George? You sure? Okay, dynamite. That's all I want to hear.
This is early in the... All right, here you see Moore coming on as the round moves on. He's starting to give George a beating, but George is an amazing specimen. I used to worry about his health, Gel. I'd stop worrying. Maybe I shouldn't.
Well, George has got such a strong mind, Larry. You know, a lot of fighters get knocked out because they lose their will to win. But George has got that great competitive spirit. Doesn't get discouraged. And believe me, he's getting hit with some hard punches because Michael Moore's right hand is his most effective punch. And he's nailed George with some good, solid shots.
30 knockouts in 35 fights for Moore. He is not short on power at all.
Let him out, Green. Let him out. Come on, let's go.
And referee Joe Cortez is really doing a good job. He's right on top of the action when he has to be, and he disappears when he should.
I think he's terrific. A slow-motion right that sailed over Moore's head by Foreman.
Well, George just did what he should do. He should aim that right hand right at Moore's chest. At least he'll hit something, and sometimes Moore can duck into a punch like that, but you don't, when it's going over his head, you tell your fighter, start aiming it at his chest. Especially with George's bulk. He'll move him back if he hits him on the chest.
Moore stepping inside and going to the body himself. Foreman throwing fewer and fewer punches now, it seems, as rounds 8 and 9 have progressed.
But again, Moore is not using too much movement again. But anytime he makes any movement at all, it makes him so much more effective. There he is again, just like a little slide to the right and snap the jab. It's when he stands in front of George and tries to fence with George that he's fighting George's fight.
And there's not much point in feinting with George because George reacts so slowly, you don't get much benefit from the feint, right? Delivered a right hand up the middle. Lancing blow there. Moore is still snapping George's head back from time to time with the jab. Win or lose, George is going to have a left eye swollen shut tonight. Left-hand shot by Moore. Right hand landed for Foreman. Crowd relatively quiet as round 9 comes to a close. It's scheduled for 12.
To use Teddy Atlas's metaphor, Moorer kept the antique car in the driveway in that round by being active.
You know where you are in the fight? Yeah, but you know what round? 3 rounds. All right. They pass quick. That means that's an amateur distance. Amateurs fight fast, don't they? Except for reaching in and being careless, I want to fight that way. A little faster for 3 rounds. Do you understand that very clearly? All right? Now look, when he's touching you with that jab, either snap the jab back at him or move to the side. Don't stay there because he's looking to set you up one shot, and then he'll open up a combination till he hits you. Now he's going to look for a spot here to steal the crowd and steal rounds. Keep a fast pace going, damn it. You hear me? Now pick it up and get into a rhythm.
In round 9, George Foreman threw only 35 punches. His activity level dropping now. Earlier in the fight, he was routinely throwing between 50 and 60 punches in each round.
Again, George's best punch is still that left jab. That's the one punch he's been able to score with. They just scored with it again. He can still snap a left jab out, but not do much else.
With a heavy shot on the hip from Foreman, and as he took that blow below the belt, Joe Cortez walked casually past Foreman and said, "George, don't do that." Right hand landed there, and another. And a right and a left, and suddenly Moorer stops punching, and it's Foreman's initiative.
There's that competitive spirit of George is coming out again. He feels he's nailed Moorer with a good punch, and he's a good finisher. He knows how to do it, but he's in with a tough guy.
And remember, Atlas told Moorer George is going to try to find a moment here to steal the crowd and get them psyched up. That looked like it might have been it for a while, but now George stops punching again and takes jabs for his trouble. Foreman waiting in to set up a left hook, and another left hook. And another left hook shot that missed.
George is so tired, though, Jim. If he misses a punch, he goes completely off balance. I have to give him all the credit in the world, but again, he's a 45-year-old man and a young man's game. But look at that competitive spirit coming out now.
Great right hand landing for Foreman. He's had a pretty good round here in number 10.
Again, Atlas didn't counter. Atlas, here we go again with the Atlas. Michael Moorer is down.
Goes Moorer on a right hand. An unbelievably close-in right hand shot. 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. It happened. It happened.
I can't believe it. I can't believe it. Here's a guy I said was a clubber.
As referee Joe Cortez waved his arms over Moorer, George Foreman knelt in prayer in the neutral corner.
You know, this was a 2-to-1 fight, but in my mind it was a gazillion to 1 that George Foreman could ever win the heavyweight championship again. This is a really remarkable achievement, and it has to stand on its own. We're in a show and tell medium, and show does it all.
So some of the old power was still there after all.
It sure fooled me. Didn't show it in the entire fight where it came from.
Well, we mentioned that he was having a strong round. He had set up some blows, and then that right hand anesthetized Michael Moorer.
It sure did. And that's the one thing I said George couldn't do. He couldn't get you out with one punch. Before he sure fooled me and Michael Moorer.
It landed right on the point of the chin, Gil.
Right on the button where it says good night.
You see the blood welling up behind Moorer's lips as he momentarily went to sleep. The 68th man in 26 years to have fallen before the professional fury of George Foreman. So you got a 45-year-old heavyweight champion of the world. Let's go to Michael Buffett for the official particulars.
The MGM Grand, the impossible dream has happened. Heavyweight history has happened. Referee Joe Corvettes reaches the count of 10. At 2 minutes, 3 seconds of round number 10, the winner, and once again, heavyweight champion of the world, Big George Foreman.
A look back at George Foreman in the moment of his triumph. This was a prayer of thanks. All the many prayers that preceded it and the thousands of prayers in this arena had already been answered. And now Larry Merchant is in the ring with the once and future heavyweight champion of the world.
All right, George, congratulations. This is an impossible dream. Tell us your thoughts about what you just accomplished.
Well, for all of my old buddies in the nursing home and all the guys in jail, always remember that song, When You Wish Upon a Star. Doesn't matter who you are, anything your heart desire can come to you if you just don't give up on your dreams. I'm so happy, and I want to thank Seth Abraham because I called him up on the phone and said, you know, this fight can happen if you want it to happen. Seth argued a little bit. He said, well, George, it can happen then. So that man who runs HBO is a special human being.
Thank you for the plug, and I'm sure that Seth appreciates it.
Tell him to give me a bonus, please.
George, you were having a hard time, it seemed. He was beating you to the punch, hitting you a lot of good stiff punches. You were hitting him with punches, and yet he was right there. What happened in the last round?
Well, I had the power this time. Bob Cook here. We trained about trimming down, but at the same time, what was that, carbohydrates and stuff he gave me, told me I'd be stronger and I'd be able to eat Wendy's hamburgers all the way through training. So I was able to get my cheeseburger and at the same time have that energy for the last because nobody can keep taking those kind of punches he took for 5, 6, 7, 8 rounds. He's got to just kill out sooner or later.
Were you ever hurt or seriously stung?
He had power, and every time he touched me on top of the head, it would just shake my body. The man is powerful.
Well, going into the last 3 rounds, were you ready to commit everything to it? Because you were staying on a nice steady pace until
the referee told me in the ring that there would be no 3 knockdown rule here. So I knew that I was going to have to punish, and get a straight knockout. The 3 knockdowns would not count. And it was hard for me to make that decision in my dressing room that I was going to have to punish this man. But they were not going to give me a 3 knockdown, so I had to take it easy, and eventually mount up the punishment. That's not what I like to do, but they gave me no alternative. They took away that 3 knockdown rule.
I don't quite get the logic of that, George, but you've always had your own, and it works.
Yeah, but I could have knocked him down 3 times earlier and won this thing, I think. But I had to continue beating and punching with stiff right hands. That's not the kind of punishment you want to give young boys because he got a year. Mohammed didn't punish me that much. He just knocked me down.
All right, we're going to go in a moment to the tape of that last round and the knockdown, and I want you to describe it.
Okay, that's called the Nancy Foreman ham hocks and chitlin right hand and left and a left. My mother told me she felt I could do it, and I knew that right hand would do it. Michael Moore was not in trouble at any time until I just started landing too many short right hands right on the tip of the nose, and they just started hurting, and finally he just couldn't take it anymore.
I was going to belly bump him if he hadn't went down.
But he was standing in front of you and fighting you the whole fight.
Yeah, he should never have done that.
I guess he felt...
Power is made to order for George Foreman.
Because?
Because I'm a straight right-hand puncher. Generally, the guys boxers move out of the way from my right hand. But these guys just move right into it. I don't have nothing to do with just keep throwing punches. Sooner or later, I'm going to hit. Doesn't matter if it's the 12th round or the first round, I'm going to hit you with a good one. And that's what happened. But I'm just happy, and I think...
Tell us now, you're wearing these 20-year-old...
Yeah, it's written on the trunk, George Foreman, heavyweight champ of the world. So these are the what are they shorts that I fought in when I was heavyweight champ of the world?
And you
they were kind of short and they make you look a little chubby, but I wanted to make sure I go in as champion.
So you fought Ali in these trunks?
I fought Muhammad Ali, Joe Frazier, not Joe Frazier, but Muhammad Ali.
A lot of people. All right, a lot of people have felt across all of these years. All right, one moment. Go ahead, Michael. Michael, you were staying close to him the entire fight, giving him his best chance. Why were you staying so close to him?
Pardon me?
Why were you? I got to ask you one more thing, George. Just hold on. I got to just ask George one more question. Everybody has felt all along that you're always chasing the ghost of Ali. Does this make you catch that ghost?
Yeah, I've exercised the ghost once and forever. I'm heavyweight champ of the world. I'm happy about that. I'm in that 45 to 55 demographic, and next time I come back, I'll be in the 65 through 75 demographic. Amen.
Thank you, George. One moment for Michael Moore, who is right here. Michael, George's punches didn't seem to be bothering you that much most of the fight. You saw them coming. You were contemptuous of him by staying so close. Was he not hurting you until that last round?
I probably got lackadaisical. First of all, I give thanks to the Lord for both of us not getting seriously injured, and say hi to my son, Buddy. I just got caught. That's a part of boxing. You have to deal with it.
Were you looking in those last 3 rounds? Teddy was advising you to step it up. Were you looking to get him out of there? Did you think he was tired at that point?
I never really thought about that. What I did, I tried to stay with the game plan that I was doing, but it wasn't effective.
Did you think in that last round when he hit you a couple of punches of simply getting away from him for a while, pulling yourself together, and then going back on the attack, or were you just stunned too quickly?
I was stunned too quickly, yeah. I was stunned. I mean, give your hat off to him. He came for a quest, and he got it.
Give us your feelings about George Foreman and the incredible power of his will to keep coming back despite the fact that you hit him so many punches.
Came back, he's a big man. I don't know if my punches hurt him, but punches really didn't affect me because I was in good condition. He caught me. What can I say?
You can say, wait till next time.
Well, I can say the best man won tonight.
Thank you very much, Michael. Back to you, Jim and Gil.
Gracious former champion now, Michael Moore. Incidentally, we're told that in the hubbub and excitement that followed Foreman's knockout victory, his brother Roy fainted dead away in the ring, was flat on his back for a while. Now Roy's okay. You heard the lines from Foreman talking about Ali. He talks about a fight that took place 20 years ago as though it happened a month and a half ago, Gil.
Well, that always bothered George a great deal. After the Ali fight is when I was called to take over his training, but he always saw the ghost of Muhammad Ali, and for him to come back like this tonight, I think this was probably the greatest punch ever landed in the history of heavyweight boxing.
Well, certainly it's going to be one of the most paid-for punches in terms of the money it's going to generate down the road, because that punch sets up multi-million-dollar business in the heavyweight division over the course of the next year. Here's another look, Gil, and your call on that punch.
Well, here we see Michael Moore again walking straight in, gets hit with the one right hand, takes that one little step back, and there's the one right on the button where it says lights out.
One more angle. To what degree, Gil, did Moore sow the seeds of his own destruction by sort of refusing to move laterally enough to stay away?
Well, that's why I felt the strategy was all wrong for Moore for the entire fight. He was trying to out-tough George. He may have been able to out-punch George for almost all of the fight, but he couldn't out-tough him. George never gave up. He's got that great will to win, and it happened for him.
You know what's great about this? It means that George is going to be fighting again, I suspect, and you'll get to work with us some more.
Well, I tell you, I would really like George to retire. How can you top this? There's no way to top this. Why would he have to fight again?
If he wasn't retiring after he lost to Tommy Morrison, why would he retire after this, huh? I suspect it isn't going to happen. Let's take a look at final punch stat numbers, which are now utterly academic. In fact, ironic. You see that Moore landed 140 more punches in the bout, landed at a higher percentage than Foreman, 58%. Under almost all circumstances, with a punch output like that and that kind of accuracy, you're going to win the fight, but Michael Moore didn't. And instead, Larry Merchant, more theater of the unexpected. Every time we think we've seen everything in heavyweight boxing, something else happens, and tonight it was, to my way of thinking, incredible.
Yeah, I've said on a number of occasions, Jim, that you would think that there was a finite limit of the things that can happen when two men get into a ring, but there is no limit. I also have to say that earlier in the fight, I said that I thought that the myth of George's power was exploded. And promptly, George exploded the explosion of that myth on us.
Yes, with that.
All week long, I've been thinking here in Las Vegas, seeing who the stars are on the marquee. Kenny Rogers is a star that's performing here, and Buddy Hackett, and Steve Allen, and Johnny Mathis, and James Brown. All those guys. But none of them have to take punches. They just have to stand up there and perform. And George is from their generation, and the will that he shows is just extraordinary. As I said earlier, it's the power of the will that most accounts for how successful he is. And if I wore a hat, I'd take it off to him.
Yeah, our hats are off to him. We'll revisit the subject of Foreman's stunning knockout victory and ascent to the heavyweight championship once again before the evening is over. But right now, we turn our attention to the next major event, which will take place in boxing November 18, right in this arena, the fight of the year between James Toney and Roy Jones Jr.
This is probably as close as you're going to get to one of those old-time fights that we loved in the 50s, 40s. Robinson, LaMotta. Since those magic days of the Hearns and the Leonards and the Haglers. This is what the middleweight classes have been waiting for. James Toney, Roy Jones Jr.
James Lights Out Toney is the undefeated IBF super middleweight champion. His presence dominates that division. Roy Jones Jr. is also an unbeaten champion, whose contrasting style presents Toney's greatest challenge. When they meet in 2 weeks, it will be in the rich tradition of some of the greatest middleweight fights ever. In 1948, champion Rocky Graziano took on the man of steel, Tony Zale, for the third time. And for the third time, it was a brutal slugfest. Challenger Zale KO'd The Rock in round 3 to regain the coveted crown. The 50s were the decade of Sugar Ray Robinson, but constantly in his shadow was the raging bull, Jake LaMotta. In their 6th and final meeting, Robinson held on to his title with a 13th round TKO. 6 years later, Robinson met welterweight champion Carmen Basilio. The smaller Basilio shocked the boxing world with a split decision victory over the man considered pound for pound the greatest fighter ever. For Roy Jones Jr., the same challenge now looms, stepping up in class to take on one of the best fighters alive.
Tony's the fighter that, to me, the fighter really to beat because people have been, for the longest time, labeling him as my greatest opposition. I know I can beat him because I know I'm the best in this business. Therefore, I think the fight will elevate to be one of the greatest fights of all time.
And Roy Jones is old enough to remember those great ones in the 80s. The 8-minute war between marvelous Marvin Hagler and Thomas Hitman Hearns, with Hagler finishing off Hearns in 3. Then in 1987, Sugar Ray Leonard's improbable comeback after a 3-year layoff from the ring. He won a 12-round split decision to take Hagler's title in what may have been the greatest upset in middleweight boxing history. Toney knows the champion is always a marked man, but he is intensely driven and welcomes anyone who dares to take his shot.
Challenges. People who think they're better than me, I'm motivated. Roy Jones thinks he's better than me, I'm motivated. I try to get busy.
Tony's style is punctuated by finishing power, but at work he is a skilled craftsman, deceptively hard to hit, even while out-punching opponents. Roy Jones, conversely, begins with speed, quick hands, quick feet, a dazzling style that ignites a fierce power of his own.
The man's got speed. See, speed is power. The power you're boxing a guy that's got a lot of speed, you got to take his legs away from him. How do you take his legs away? You go to his body. You kill the body, the head to die.
But everybody assumes that Roy is going to run, but that's not going to be the fight. It's going to be a very tactical, very good fight. It's going to be tactical, and if Tony makes a mistake, he's going to pay for it.
1994, the next great middleweight showdown.
I'm definitely the best fighter in the world, and Roy is trying to be, so this is a fight everybody's wanted to see for the last 2 years, and now this finally happened, it's going to be exciting. Everybody's going to want to see this fight.
The winner of this fight will be pound for pound, no doubt, the best in the world today.
It's not just the title, the IBF Super Middleweight Championship that they're fighting about, but it's that supreme accolade of who is the best fighter of this era.
Roy Jones Jr. against James Toney, November 18 on pay-per-view. Gil, are the elements there in terms of style for an exciting fight?
Oh, it has to be an exciting, great fight. Roy Jones is a super talented, unorthodox fighter. He defies the basics, but he's so dangerous in that first round. I've seen a few of his fights, and the first time these guys get hit with this quick left hook in that first round, you can see them, they're so surprised. My God, what was that? And that's very, very dangerous in the early rounds.
What about Tony?
Tony he's become a real solid professional, does not defy the basics. He knows what it takes to win a fight. This fight gets past the fourth round, I think Tony will be in command.
All right. Larry, are we overhyping the significance of the bout?
Well, I'm sad to say and glad to say all the hype is true. This is a fight that fight fans have really been looking forward to. It is the biggest fight in the middleweight division since Hagler and Leonard, and the biggest fight among undefeated young champions since Leonard and Hearns. I think that the way that James Toney has fought in his recent fights, he has a chance to go down as one of the better middleweights since the era of Sugar Ray Robinson. But if there's anybody out there that can beat him in at this weight, it's the guy he's going to be fighting in that fight.
Nice things for both of you to say about the two fighters. I hope they appreciate it because they've both been listening live. As they join us now from opposite ends of the country, Roy Jones Jr. in New York City, James Toney, the champion, who is in Los Angeles. And James, I'll start with you. It's been reported that you've closed your training camp in the past few weeks, gotten into a surly mood, and given your past history, that causes people to bring up the subject of weight. What's the story? Are you struggling again to get down to 168 pounds?
I feel good. I'm in great shape. I'm ready. And that's all I got to say. Everybody will see how my weight is on November 17th.
Why'd you close your training camp?
Because I wanted to. I got tired of everybody being in my way. So I had to kick them out. I had my privacy. I had my room, my space.
All right. Relax and occupy your space for a second while we talk to Roy. Roy, what about the subject of weight for you? You're moving up from 160 to fight James at 168 pounds, where he has been living for the past year and a half, and a lot of people think that might be a mistake. What about the extra 8 pounds?
That lets you know that I evidently think that I'm a bad man. Anytime you can go to somebody's weight to where they've been living all this time and still know that you can take over, then that's got to let you know that you have a lot of confidence in yourself.
A lot of people seem to see this fight as a battle between your speed and James Toney's punching power. Some people, on the other hand, see it as a battle between your punching power and James's boxing ability. Are you, Roy, the boxer or the puncher in this fight?
I'm actually both, but that just goes to show you how well of a fight, how well of a matchup this really is. Because some people, like you say, look at my speed and his power. Other people look at my power and his speed. So there are two complete fighters that they're looking at, and that always creates a very big explosion.
How do you see that subject, James? Are you the boxer or are you the puncher against Roy Jones?
I'm both. I can do it all. Like I said, I'm a complete fighter. I can box, I can punch, I can fight going forward, I can fight backwards. So like I said, everybody will see November 18th that I'm the best fighter in the world.
You haven't exactly said the nicest things about Roy Jones in private. It is well known in the sport that you don't think a great deal of him personally. Exactly what is it you dislike about Roy?
Well, like I said, he stepped up and challenged me. Anybody challenge me, got to get dogged out. That's my job. You know, I'm not going to say, if somebody challenge me, going to say, oh, he's a nice guy and all that. I'm not going to do that. A man challenging me, he's going to get dogged out.
What about you, Roy? Anybody who come into the ring against you got to get dogged out, too?
Nah, you don't got to get dogged out. You just got to get taught a lesson.
How you going to teach him a lesson? Tell us what's going to happen in the fight.
That's all I can do. I got to go out there and do what I got to do to teach that lesson.
He can't. Nobody teach me a lesson. I'm the teacher, baby. I'm the teacher.
We'll
come
see
on,
come to
18. I'm breaking you up.
We'll see come to 18.
I'm breaking you up.
We'll see come to 18.
That's all I got to say. Breaking you.
We'll
Baby,
see come to 18.
fight.
I'm your huckleberry. That's just what I'm looking for.
Get your track shoes on.
My game. That's
Get
just
your track
my
shoes
game.
on, boy.
That's just my game.
I'm knocking your punk ass out.
All right, gentlemen.
I'm your huckleberry.
We understand.
Bring it on.
I'm about to shoot you down.
Bring it on.
All right. We hear you. Thanks very much, Roy Jones Jr. and James Toney. We appreciate your time, and we'll look forward to the hostilities, and they will be, trust me, genuine hostilities on the night of November 18, pay-per-view from here at the MGM Grand. So that's what's happening next in the sport of boxing. Now we turn our attention to a couple of upcoming entertainment events right here on HBO. Simply the best.
November 12th, the next big event. You won't see it on any stage. You won't see it on tour. You'll only see it on HBO. Whitney, live. An event created just for HBO. The concert for a new South Africa. Whitney, Saturday, November 12th at 9 p.m. One voice, one concert, one place to see it. HBO. Simply the best.
Coming soon from HBO Pictures. He's among the most feared heavyweights in boxing history. Tyson.
So from the subject of Mike Tyson, a man who says he wants to regain the heavyweight championship when he comes out of prison next May, we turn back to the subject of a man who regained the heavyweight championship tonight. In case you've just tuned in, all I can tell you is it happened, and you didn't see it, and you're going to regret it the rest of your life. George Foreman, at age 45, is once again heavyweight champion of the world. Can you believe that? George Foreman's unique metamorphosis began more than a quarter century ago in Mexico City. He was the teenage Job Corps recruit from the rough streets of Houston who lit up a racially torn Olympics with a sudden display of American flags. Nearly 5 years would pass before he won the professional heavyweight championship with a breathtaking performance on a breathless night in Kingston, Jamaica. Down went Frazier, and he would go down 6 times in all before the fight was stopped in the second round. After 2 quick KO defenses, Big George was viewed as invincible, going into his rumble in the jungle with an aging Muhammad Ali. 8 rounds later, both of their images and their lives were transformed, and George Foreman would never be exactly the same again. After another loss to Jimmy Young 2.5 years later in Puerto Rico, the big man said he had seen God, and he went off to find him again. In the next 10 years, the hardest of all heavyweight punchers became a homespun country preacher, tending his spiritual flock and puttering on his ranch in the woods near Houston. He was gone from boxing until the most improbable comeback of the baby boomer generation. It began as a lighthearted crusade for the notion that 40 was fine. But when the 42-year-old challenger held up through 12 brutal rounds with champion Evander Holyfield in 1991, no one was laughing anymore. It was to be the last real hurrah until tonight. There were 3 more wins for the record, then the loss to Tommy Morrison in 1993, only the 4th loss of Foreman's career. Most of us, on instinct, wrote him off after the 12-round decision loss to Morrison. So who would have guessed that the one-time Olympic gold medalist could have dodged the inevitable for so long, reinvented himself twice over in public, and left behind, in the end, a miracle. The miracle he fashioned in the ring tonight against a seemingly dominant Michael Moore. That miracle, a knockout victory at 2:03 of the 10th round. Now written on the faces of the millions of boxing fans, George Foreman has left awestruck and delighted for more than 26 years. And on the story goes. Coming up immediately after tonight's coverage of World Championship Boxing, stay tuned for Real Sex 10 on the East Coast and Mrs. Doubtfire on the West Coast. World Championship Boxing returns next month with more heavyweight action as former champ Riddick Bowe faces the potentially dangerous and undefeated Larry Donald. Will Donald upset Bowe's plans to regain the heavyweight title? Join us Saturday, December 3 for an intriguing night of boxing. On November 22, HBO Sports presents American Coaches, Men of Vision and Victory. Hosted by Pat Riley, this exclusive documentary examines the secrets and success of coaching greats John Wooden, Red Auerbach, Casey Stengel, Vince Lombardi, and Woody Hayes. So join us Tuesday, November 22 at 9:30 Eastern and